Apparently, Till Death Do Us Part doesn't cover the part where your sister's husband tries to steal 9 houses while she's in a medically induced coma. But here we are. Hi, I'm Iris, and I'm a tax preparer in Scottsdale, Arizona, which means I see financial disasters before they become full-blown train wrecks. Unfortunately, my own family became the biggest disaster of my career. And trust me, I've seen people try to write off their Botox as business expenses. Let me set the scene. Thursday, October 4th. Beautiful fall evening in Scottsdale. You know those picture-perfect suburban block parties where everyone pretends their marriages aren't falling apart over rosé and charcuterie boards? Yeah, that one. My sister Vera, 38, sweet as they come, married to Lawson for 12 years, collapsed right next to the inflatable bounce house while holding a cup of sangria. One minute she's laughing about the HOA's new desert-friendly landscaping requirements. The next, she's on the ground with a 104-degree bind fever, confused and seizing. Paramedics rushed her to Banner University Medical Center. Diagnosis: viral meningitis, severe. The kind that makes doctors use phrases like critical condition and induced coma to prevent brain swelling. Lawson, her devoted husband of over a decade, absolutely nailed the performance of devastated spouse. I'm talking Oscar-worthy. He set up a GoFundMe that raised $47,000, money that mysteriously never made it to medical expenses. But that's a subplot for later. He posted daily hospital updates on Facebook with captions like, "Praying for my warrior wife," and "She's my everything." He even brought her favorite lavender essential oils to the ICU like that would cure meningitis. Me? I'm the practical sister. The one who shows up with power of attorney documents and spreadsheets instead of thoughts and prayers. Vera gave me financial POA back in 2020 during some estate planning we did together. She's always been organized like that, bless her type A heart. So while Lawson was performing for his social media audience, I was doing what I do best, following the money. And, oh honey, the money had a story to tell. See, I'm Vera's tax preparer. Have been for 6 years, ever since she and Lawson started their real estate investment journey. You know, that thing every suburban couple does after watching too many HGTV shows. Between 2018 and 2023, they bought 9 properties across the Phoenix metro area. Modest investments mostly. A condo in Tempe near ASU, a starter home in Gilbert, a cute bungalow in central Phoenix that they renovated. Nothing crazy. They were building wealth the smart, boring way. Except when I pulled up their property records to organize tax documents for the year, something was wrong. Like, wait, did I download the wrong files? Wrong. All 9 properties, every single one, had been refinanced in the past 18 months. And here's the kicker. Only Lawson's name appeared on the new titles. Vera's name? Gone. Vanished. Erased like she never existed. Now, I've been doing taxes for 14 years. I've seen every scheme, every creative accounting solution, every desperate attempt to hide assets during a divorce. But this was a masterclass in quiet theft. How do you remove someone's name from property they legally own? Quit claim deeds. Basically, legal documents where one owner quits their claim to the property and transfers it to the other owner. Totally legitimate if consensual. Happens all the time during divorces, estate planning, that sort of thing. But here's what made my tax preparer spidey senses go nuclear. All 9 quit claims were signed during refinancing applications. Lawson would tell Vera they were signing paperwork to lower interest rates, or streamlining ownership for better loan terms. Standard married couple financial stuff, right? Except buried in those stacks of mortgage documents were quit claim deeds where Vera unknowingly signed away her ownership stake in every single property. The average refinancing package is 73 pages. You really think someone's reading every word? Lawson was counting on it. And he had help. Professional help. Enter Daphne, 34, luxury real estate agent with an Instagram full of boss babe quotes and photos of her standing in front of multi-million-dollar listings she definitely didn't sell. Turns out, Daphne wasn't just Lawson's realtor. She was his business partner. And possibly more, based on the 17 property showing appointments that happened to be scheduled during times Vera was at work. Here's how their little scheme worked. Lawson would refinance a property, removing Vera's name. Then Daphne would list it quietly. No public MLS listing, just private networks. She'd buy it herself through an LLC for the actual market value, then immediately flip it for 30 to 40% higher to one of her investor clients. The profit? Split 50-50 between her and Lawson, deposited into accounts Vera didn't know existed. They'd done this with 3 properties already, cleared about $217,000, never reported a dime to the IRS, because apparently tax fraud is just a fun bonus crime when you're already committing marriage fraud. I found all of this while Vera was sedated in the ICU with doctors telling us she might not wake up. Lawson was posting "God has a plan" on Facebook, while literally selling her assets out from under her comatose body. The absolute audacity. So there I was, Thursday, October 18th, 2 weeks into Vera's medical nightmare, sitting in my home office in Chandler, surrounded by property records, bank statements, and a rage so pure it could power the entire Phoenix grid. I had 2 options: call Lawson, scream at him, and watch him lawyer up and disappear the evidence, or play the long game. I'm a tax preparer. We don't do impulsive. We do methodical, documented, and legally airtight. I chose violence, the legal kind. By Friday, October 20th, I had filed 9 separate civil complaints for fraud in the inducement, secured preliminary injunctions freezing all 9 properties from sale or transfer, initiated a forensic audit of every Lawson-Daphne transaction since 2018, and reported their unreported capital gains to the IRS. That last one? That's called a whistleblower complaint. If the IRS recovers taxes, I get 15 to 30% of the total as a reward. Lawson had no idea. He was too busy playing grieving husband on social media and making plans with Daphne to list the Gilbert property for a quick flip. They had a buyer lined up. Closing scheduled for November 3rd. Profit projection, $68,000. That sale? Blocked. By me. With a court order. The preliminary injunction meant Lawson couldn't sell, refinance, transfer, or do anything with those properties without court approval. And since Vera was incapacitated, I, as her POA, became her legal representative in all 9 lawsuits. Lawson found out about the injunctions when the title company called him on October 25th, saying the Gilbert sale was dead. He showed up at my house that evening, all 6'2" of him, trying to intimidate me on my own doorstep. "What the hell are you doing, Iris?" I smiled. "Protecting my sister's assets. You know, the properties you forgot to mention you were stealing? Those are my properties. I bought them. I refinanced them. Vera signed documents you lied about. That's fraud, Lawson. And when she wakes up, when, not if, she's going to have some questions." He tried the charm offensive then. "Look, you don't understand real estate investing. This is complicated. I was trying to protect our assets, simplify our portfolio, by hiding $200,000 in profits. Try again." His face went from concerned husband to something way less friendly. "You're making a huge mistake. Those lawsuits are going to cost you thousands in legal fees for nothing." Vera signed those documents willingly. "Then I guess we'll let a judge decide. See you in court, brother-in-law." He left. 3 hours later, Daphne called me, trying the girlfriend-to-girlfriend approach. "Iris, I think there's been a misunderstanding." I let her finish her whole practice speech about business decisions and Lawson's financial strategy before I said, "Daphne, I've already reported your LLC transactions to the IRS. Every single unreported capital gain. You're looking at tax evasion charges, possible real estate license revocation, and civil fraud liability. But sure, let's call it a misunderstanding." She hung up. And Vera? Still sedated. Still fighting meningitis. Still completely unaware that her husband was a thief and her marriage was a lie. But here's the thing about medically induced comas. Eventually, they end. You know what's fascinating about white-collar criminals? They genuinely believe they're the smartest person in every room. Lawson was about to learn that tax preparers are professionally trained to catch people who think they're clever. November rolled in and Vera was still under sedation. Week 5 of what would become an 11-week medical nightmare. Her neurologist, Dr. Patel, kept saying things like cautiously optimistic, and reducing sedation gradually, which is doctor speak for, "We have no idea when she'll wake up, so stop asking." Meanwhile, Lawson was spiraling in the most predictable way possible. First, he tried the legal route. Hired some attorney named Barrett from a strip mall law office in Mesa. You know the type, with billboards that say, "Injured? Call Barrett," and a website that looks like it was built in 2003. Barrett sent me a cease and desist letter claiming I was interfering with legitimate marital property rights and overstepping my authority as POA. I forwarded it to my attorney, Cora, a 52-year-old real estate litigator who eats strip mall lawyers for breakfast, and she laughed so hard she snorted coffee. He spelled fiduciary wrong, twice. Barrett's cease and desist went straight into my adorable attempts at intimidation folder, right next to Lawson's threatening texts. Oh yeah, the texts. Started around November 3rd, right when that Gilbert property sale officially died. Lawson went from fake nice to passive-aggressive to straight-up hostile in the span of 48 hours. Novi 3, 9:47 a.m. Iris, we need to talk about this misunderstanding like adults. Novi 3, 2:15 p.m. You're costing our family thousands in legal fees for no reason. Nov 4, 8:33 a.m. Vera would be ashamed of you for doing this. That last one? That's when I knew I had him. Because innocent people don't weaponize unconscious family members. Guilty people do. I didn't respond to any of them. Radio silence is the most devastating response you can give a narcissist. And Lawson was textbook. Every ignored text made him sloppier, angrier, more desperate. And desperate people make mistakes. By mid-November, I'd learned some fascinating things through legal discovery. See, once you file a fraud lawsuit, you get to demand all sorts of financial records. Bank statements, emails, text messages, credit card bills, the whole digital paper trail. And Lawson's Paper Trail was a true crime podcast waiting to happen. Turns out, he and Daphne had been running this scheme longer than I thought. The 3 properties they'd already flipped. That was just the tip of the iceberg. I found evidence of 12 attempted transactions over the past 2 years. Some successful, some that fell through, and 6 that were in various stages of planning. But here's the truly sick part. Lawson had started preparing for Vera's exit from the business long before she got sick. I found an email thread from August, 2 months before Vera collapsed, where Lawson was discussing with Daphne how to transition primary ownership and simplify the portfolio structure. There was even a message where Daphne wrote, "Once you're solo on these titles, we can move faster. No more waiting for V to sign everything." They'd been planning to squeeze Vera out of her own investments for months. The meningitis just gave Lawson an opportunity to accelerate the timeline. And the GoFundMe money? The $47,000 that Lawson collected from friends, family, neighbors, and strangers who believed his devoted husband performance? I traced it. Every single dollar. $16,000 went to paying down the mortgage on the Tempe condo, the one he was planning to flip next. $8,000 got deposited into an account under his mother's name, because apparently financial fraud is a family value. $12,000 went to a business consulting fee paid to an LLC that Daphne just happened to own. The remaining $11,000? Scattered across various personal expenses, including a $700 dinner at Steak 44 in Phoenix that Lawson and Daphne enjoyed on October 29th. While Vera was in the ICU fighting for brain function, her husband was ordering Wagyu beef and celebrating with his mistress using money people donated for her medical care. I took screenshots of everything and forwarded them to the Arizona Attorney General's office. Charity fraud is a felony. Just saying. By Thanksgiving week, Lawson was drowning. The preliminary injunctions meant he was still responsible for mortgage payments on all 9 properties, but couldn't sell any of them. We're talking roughly $11,000 per month in combined mortgage payments. His contractor salary, he works for some commercial construction company in Tempe, was maybe $72,000 per year. The math didn't math. He tried to refinance the properties to get better rates and lower payments. Denied. Can't refinance properties under active litigation. The title companies won't touch them. He tried to get tenants for the vacant ones to offset costs. Couldn't do it without court approval because of the injunctions. and my attorney blocked every motion he filed. He tried to take out a personal loan using the properties as collateral. Also denied. Same reason. Watching Lawson realize he'd trapped himself was better than anything on Netflix. The absolute best part? His family started asking questions. His mother, Mavis, 68, retired elementary school teacher with a crucifix the size of a dinner plate hanging in her living room, called me on November 17th. Iris, Lawson says you're trying to steal Vera's properties while she's sick. That doesn't sound like you. Translation: Lawson's been lying to me, and I'm starting to suspect my son is trash. I explained everything. The quit-claim deeds, the hidden sales, the unreported income, the GoFundMe fraud. Mavis went silent for about 30 seconds, which, if you've ever talked to Mavis, you know that woman hasn't been quiet for 30 consecutive seconds since 1987. Finally, that stupid boy. She didn't call him a thief, didn't call him dishonest, called him stupid. Because in Mavis's world, the worst sin isn't stealing, it's getting caught. 2 days later, Mavis withdrew the $8,000 Lawson had hidden in her account and returned it to me with a note. For Vera's medical expenses. Tell her I'm praying for her. Even Lawson's own mother was jumping ship. By early December, Lawson had moved out of the house he and Vera owned in Scottsdale, a gorgeous 4-bedroom with a pool that they'd bought in 2019. Why? Couldn't afford the mortgage anymore. He moved into a studio apartment in Tempe that his mother owned. One of those depressing 800-square-foot boxes near ASU where you can hear your neighbors' entire lives through the walls. Daphne? Oh, honey. Daphne's life became a dumpster fire all on its own. The Arizona Department of Real Estate opened an investigation into her LLC transactions on November 21st. Turns out, buying properties from clients, immediately flipping them for massive profits, and not disclosing the conflict of interest to all parties. That's a violation of about 17 different real estate regulations. Her brokerage, some boutique luxury firm in Old Town Scottsdale, suspended her license pending investigation. She went from posting boss babe selfies in front of multi-million-dollar estates to posting motivational quotes about seasons of growth and trusting the journey. I heard through the Real Estate Gossip Network, which is faster than the Scottsdale Moms Facebook group, and that's saying something, that she'd applied to work at Kohl's, the department store, in the home goods section. From luxury real estate agent to folding bath towels in about 6 weeks. You love to see it. But the sweetest karma? Vera's friends started figuring things out. See, Vera's in a book club. 8 women who've been meeting monthly for 5 years at various Scottsdale coffee shops to drink overpriced lattes and pretend they read the assigned books. They'd been visiting her at the hospital in shifts, bringing flowers and reading to her even though she was sedated. One of them, Gwen, worked in mortgage lending. She asked me casually on December 9th, "Hey, Iris, random question. Did Vera and Lawson refinance some properties recently?" I smiled. "Why do you ask?" "Because my company processed 3 of them, and I just noticed Vera's name isn't on the new titles, which is weird." "Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?" Gwen went pale. "Oh my God, is that why you filed those lawsuits?" Word spread through the book club by that evening. By the next morning, Lawson's Facebook was flooded with people removing him as a friend. His Instagram comments turned into a bloodbath of thinly veiled accusations and prayer hands emojis, because nothing says, "I know you're a scumbag," like commenting, "praying for your family during this difficult time" on every single post. The social exile was almost as satisfying as the legal destruction. And through all of this, the lawsuits, the investigations, the financial implosion, the public humiliation, Vera slept, sedated, healing, completely unaware that her entire life had detonated. But Dr. Patel called me on December 18th with the news I'd been waiting 11 weeks to hear. "We're waking her up, starting tomorrow. Game on, Lawson. Game on." Watching someone wake up from an 11-week medically induced coma is not like the movies. There's no dramatic, eye-opening moment with inspiring music. It's gradual, confusing, and involves a lot of medical equipment beeping in ways that make your anxiety spike. Vera's sedation was reduced starting December 19th. By December 21st, she was responsive to stimuli, squeezing hands, following lights with her eyes, the basic stuff. Dr. Patel kept saying she was progressing beautifully, which felt wildly optimistic, given that my sister looked like she'd been hit by a truck, and then the truck backed up to check its work. I was there when she fully woke up on December 22nd, a Saturday morning around 9:15. Her first words, after 11 weeks of silence? Why does my head feel like someone used it as a piñata? That's my sister. Nearly dies from viral meningitis and wakes up with jokes. You've been sedated for 11 weeks, I told her, holding her hand. Viral meningitis. You collapsed at the block party on October 4th. Vera blinked slowly, processing. Her brain was working, but everything was moving through molasses. 11 weeks? It's December? December 22nd, almost Christmas. Lawson, where's Lawson? And there it was, the question I'd been dreading and anticipating for 77 days. Vera, we need to talk, and you're going to want to be sitting up for this. I spent the next 45 minutes explaining everything. The quitclaim deeds, the hidden sales, the unreported income, Daphne, the GoFundMe fraud, the lawsuits I'd filed, the injunctions, all of it. Vera listened without interrupting, which is extremely unlike her. Normally, she'd be asking 17 questions per minute. But she just stared at me with this blank expression that got progressively more horrifying as I continued. When I finished, she was silent for maybe 30 seconds. Then, so my husband tried to steal 9 houses while I was unconscious? Technically, he stole them before you were unconscious. He just planned to sell them while you couldn't stop him. And his real estate agent girlfriend, probable girlfriend, no confirmed affair evidence yet, was helping him hide the money. $217,000, yes. Another long pause. Then Vera started laughing. Not hysterical crying laughter, but genuine acidic amusement. I married an idiot. A greedy idiot, I corrected. A greedy idiot who didn't realize my sister is a tax preparer with the rage capacity of a honey badger. I prefer professional financial assassin, but sure. Here's what I love about Vera. Even after nearly dying and discovering her husband is a fraud, she doesn't do the crying victim routine. She gets strategic, always has. It's why she gave me financial POA in the first place. She knew if anything happened to her, I'd burn the world down to protect her. What's his situation right now? She asked. Living in a studio apartment your mother-in-law owns. Can't afford the mortgages on any of the properties because they're frozen in litigation. His lawyer is incompetent. Daphne lost her real estate license and works at Kohl's. His mother returned $8,000 he tried to hide in her account. Oh, and the Arizona Attorney General is investigating the GoFundMe fraud. Vera smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. And he doesn't know I'm awake yet? Not unless Dr. Patel told him. I requested a communication blackout. Only immediate family gets updates, and you're my immediate family. When's he planning to visit? He's been coming every Tuesday and Friday at 2 p.m. like clockwork. Very devoted husband performance for the nurses. Vera looked at the clock on the wall. 10:47 a.m. So he'll be here tomorrow, Sunday, December 23rd. Most likely. Perfect. She reached for the water cup on her bedside table, hands shaking from 11 weeks of muscle atrophy. Here's what we're going to do. And that's when I realized my sister wasn't just awake. She was activated. We spent the rest of Saturday planning. Dr. Patel confirmed Vera was neurologically intact. No brain damage, no cognitive impairment, just weakness from extended sedation. Physical therapy would start next week, but mentally she was sharp as ever. By Saturday evening, we had a strategy, and it was beautiful. See, Arizona is a community property state, which means anything acquired during a marriage belongs equally to both spouses. Lawson removing Vera's name from titles doesn't change the fact that she legally owns 50% of everything. The quitclaim deeds were fraudulent because Vera signed them under false pretenses. She thought she was refinancing to lower interest rates, not transferring ownership. But here's where it gets fun. Since Lawson transferred properties to himself through fraud, and then sold 3 of them without Vera's knowledge or consent, those sales can be voided, completely unwound. The buyers would get their money back. Lawson would have to return the properties or their equivalent value, and Daphne would be on the hook for facilitating fraudulent transactions. The 6 properties Lawson still owned? Those would go into receivership during the divorce proceedings, meaning a court-appointed manager would control them, collect any rental income, and ensure Lawson couldn't pull any more schemes. It would take years to fully resolve. Years of legal fees, court dates, depositions, and financial audits. Years of Lawson being trapped in litigation hell while his life crumbled around him. Cora, my attorney, called it aggressive asset protection. I called it scorched earth with paperwork. Sunday, December 23rd arrived. Lawson was scheduled to visit at 2 p.m. Vera was ready. She'd had the nurses help her sit up, brush her hair, and generally look less like a coma patient, and more like someone who'd been strategically planning revenge for 24 hours. I sat in the corner of the room with my iPad, ready to document everything. Lawson walked in at 2:08 p.m., carrying flowers, grocery store carnations, because even his gestures were cheap, and wearing his concerned husband face. He didn't notice Vera was awake at first. She had her eyes closed, breathing steadily, playing possum like a champ. "Hey, babe," he said softly, setting the flowers on the side table. "It's me. I brought you flowers. The doctors say you're doing better. I'm so glad. I miss you so much." Vera opened her eyes. Lawson actually jumped. "Oh my God. Vera, you're awake. When did you—" He turned to me. "Why didn't anyone tell me she was awake?" "She woke up yesterday," I said calmly. "We wanted to make sure she was stable before notifying anyone." He moved toward Vera's bed, reaching for her hand. She pulled it away. "Don't," she said. Her voice was rough from weeks of intubation, but the edge was unmistakable. "Babe, what's wrong? Are you okay? Are you in pain?" "Oh, I'm in pain," Vera said. Iris told me everything. The color drained from Lawson's face faster than an Arizona sunset. "Told you what? About the properties, the quitclaim deeds, the sales you tried to hide, your business partner Daphne, the GoFundMe money you stole, all of it." Lawson looked at me with pure hatred. "You had no right." "I had power of attorney," I interrupted. "I had every right, and Vera deserved to know her husband is a thief." He turned back to Vera, switching tactics to wounded husband mode. "Vera, honey, you don't understand. I was trying to protect our assets, simplify our finances. Those decisions were about our future." "Our future?" Vera's laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. "You removed my name from 9 properties. You sold 3 of them without telling me. You hid $200,000. You used my medical emergency to steal from me. What part of that is our future?" "I can explain." "I'm sure you can. You can explain it to the judge during our divorce proceedings, and to the IRS during their audit, and to the Arizona Attorney General during their fraud investigation." Lawson's face went from pale to red. "You're divorcing me? After 12 years of marriage? While you're still recovering from being sick? You tried to rob me while I was in a coma, Lawson. I think the marriage counseling ship has sailed. Vera, please, think about this. We can work through this." "Get out," she said. Not yelling, just flat, cold finality. "Babe, get out." Lawson looked at me one more time, like I was supposed to help him. I smiled and gave him a little wave. He left without the carnations. Vera waited until his footsteps faded down the hallway, then looked at me. "How long until the divorce papers can be filed?" "Cora's already drafting them. We can file Wednesday morning." "Good, because I'm done being nice." That's when I knew. The real revenge hadn't even started yet. Vera was discharged from Banner University Medical Center on December 28th. She moved into my house in Chandler because there was absolutely no way she was going back to that Scottsdale house where Lawson had been planning her financial murder for 2 years. Cora filed the divorce papers on Wednesday, December 26th at 8:03 a.m. First thing when the courthouse opened, because my attorney doesn't mess around. By 10:47 a.m., Lawson had been served at his construction site in Tempe. His co-workers told us later that he opened the envelope, read the first page, and just sat down on a stack of drywall, looking like someone had unplugged him. The divorce petition wasn't just dissolution of marriage, it was 47 pages of financial warfare. We requested full forensic accounting of all marital assets, immediate freezing of all joint accounts, temporary spousal support from Lawson to Vera. The audacity of this request was intentional. Full disclosure of all business relationships with Daphne and repayment of the $47,000 in GoFundMe donations plus interest. But the real weapon? We filed for sanctions against Lawson for fraudulent conveyance of marital assets. In Arizona, if you try to hide or transfer community property during a divorce, the court can award the entire value of those assets to the other spouse as punishment, not 50%, 100%. Lawson's attorney, Barrett, filed a response that Cora described as impressively incompetent. He claimed the properties were Lawson's separate property because his name was on the titles, completely ignoring that Arizona is a community property state and that the quit-claim deeds were fraudulent. By mid-January, Barrett had withdrawn from the case. Word through the legal gossip network was that Lawson couldn't pay him. Lawson tried representing himself for exactly one hearing before the judge strongly suggested he get new counsel. He eventually hired someone slightly more competent, an attorney named Hugh who at least knew how to spell fiduciary. But by then, the discovery phase had begun. And discovery is where financial criminals go to die. See, in divorce proceedings, both parties have to disclose everything: bank statements, tax returns, business records, emails, text messages. All of it becomes evidence. And Lawson's financial life was a crime scene. The forensic accountant Cora hired, this brilliant woman named Edith who looks like someone's sweet grandmother but has the investigative instincts of a bloodhound, found things even I missed. Turns out, the 12 attempted transactions I'd discovered, that was amateur hour. Edith found evidence of 19 separate property schemes over 3 years. Some succeeded, some failed, but all of them involved Lawson trying to hide assets from Vera. The best one? He'd bought a fifth-wheel RV in 2022 for $63,000, financed through a loan in only his name, and told Vera it was a work vehicle for his construction job. It wasn't. He'd been parking it at a storage facility and using it for weekend trips with Daphne. We found Instagram photos Daphne had posted and then deleted showing her at Lake Havasu in that exact RV. That RV was community property. Edith added it to the asset list. There was also a boat, a jet ski, a timeshare in Rocky Point, Mexico. An LLC Lawson had formed without Vera's knowledge. And, my personal favorite, a cryptocurrency account where he'd hidden $18,000 in Bitcoin that he'd bought during the 2021 surge and forgotten about. Every single thing Edith found got added to the marital estate. By February, the total value of assets Lawson had tried to hide was approximately $412,000. The judge was not amused. At a hearing on February 14th, Valentine's Day, because the universe has a sense of humor, the judge issued a preliminary ruling. All hidden assets would be awarded entirely to Vera as sanctions for fraudulent conveyance. Lawson didn't get 50%. He got 0%. Lawson tried to argue. His attorney tried to argue. The judge cut them both off and said something I'll treasure forever. Mr. Lawson, you spent 3 years systematically stealing from your wife. Now you get to spend the next several years systematically paying her back. Enjoy. But wait, it gets better. Remember that IRS whistleblower complaint I filed back in October? The one about Lawson and Daphne's unreported capital gains from the property flips? The IRS moves slowly, but they move thoroughly. In March, both Lawson and Daphne received audit notices, full financial audits going back 6 years. The IRS wanted documentation for every property transaction, every business expense, every dollar that moved through their accounts. Lawson didn't have documentation, because criminals rarely keep good records. The tax bill, including back taxes, penalties, and interest, came to approximately $97,000. Lawson had 60 days to pay or enter a payment plan. He couldn't pay, obviously. The man was drowning in mortgage payments on properties he couldn't sell, legal fees he couldn't afford, and now a 6-figure tax bill. He tried to negotiate a payment plan. The IRS offered him one, $743 per month for the next 11 years. On his $72,000 salary with $11,000 in monthly mortgage obligations, that was mathematically impossible. Lawson filed for bankruptcy in April, and that's when things got truly poetic. See, in bankruptcy, you're supposed to disclose all assets and all debts. The bankruptcy trustee, this no-nonsense woman named Alma, who'd seen every scheme in the book, reviewed Lawson's filing and immediately flagged it for fraud. Why? Because Lawson tried to claim the 9 properties as secured debts, without mentioning they were all subject to litigation and temporary injunctions. He also failed to mention the divorce proceedings, the IRS audit, and the Arizona Attorney General's investigation into the GoFundMe fraud. Alma filed a motion to dismiss the bankruptcy for bad faith filing. The bankruptcy judge agreed. Lawson's bankruptcy petition was thrown out, which meant all his debts remained active and collectible. No bankruptcy protection. No fresh start. Just debt, litigation, and consequences. Meanwhile, Daphne's situation became its own disaster movie. The Arizona Department of Real Estate completed their investigation in March and revoked her license permanently. Not suspended, revoked. She could never work in real estate in Arizona again. The IRS audit revealed she'd failed to report $234,000 in income over 4 years. Her tax bill, with penalties and interest, was approximately $86,000. She also got hit with civil lawsuits from 2 of the buyers who'd purchased properties through her LLC scheme. They wanted refunds plus damages for fraud. Both cases settled out of court for undisclosed amounts. But word through the real estate network was that Daphne had to liquidate everything: her condo, her car, her Cartier watch collection, to pay the settlements. Last I heard, she was still working at Kohl's. Management position now, apparently. Folding towels with authority. The property situation resolved in stages. The 3 properties Lawson had already sold went into settlement negotiations. The buyers got their money back. The properties reverted to community property status, and Lawson had to repay the profits plus damages. He couldn't, obviously, so those judgments became collectible debts that will follow him for decades. The 6 properties Lawson still owned went into receivership during the divorce. A court-appointed property manager took control, started renting them out, and applied the rental income to mortgage payments and legal fees. Vera gets 50% of any net income. Lawson gets nothing until all litigation is resolved. That Scottsdale house with the pool? Vera got it in the divorce settlement. She's renovating it now. Hired a designer, picked out new furniture, basically erasing every trace of Lawson's existence. She calls it emotional exorcism with throw pillows. The timeline for full resolution? Probably 3 to 5 years for all the lawsuits to work through the system. But here's the thing. Lawson is trapped. He can't sell properties, can't discharge debts, can't escape the consequences. He's stuck in legal quicksand, sinking slowly while paying lawyers and accountants with money he doesn't have. And me? I got my IRS whistleblower reward in May. 15% of the recovered taxes from both Lawson and Daphne. $27,400. I donated every penny to Banner University Medical Center's neurology department in Vera's name. Because the best revenge isn't money. It's watching karma do exactly what you designed it to do, with receipts. It's been 8 months since Vera woke up from that coma. 8 months since we discovered just how creative someone can get with fraud when they think nobody's watching. People ask me all the time, "Iris, how did you know what to do? How did you put together such a perfect revenge plan?" Here's the truth. I didn't plan revenge. I just documented theft and let the legal system do what it does best, slowly, methodically destroy people who think they're above consequences. Vera's doing phenomenally well now. Physically, she's back to about 95%. She still gets headaches when she's stressed, and her stamina isn't quite what it was before the meningitis. But she's running her book club again, going to physical therapy twice a week, and making decisions about grout colors for the Scottsdale house renovation. Emotionally? That's more complicated. She's not bitter, which surprises people. She's just done. Done with Lawson, done with pretending their marriage was something it wasn't, done with being the nice wife who doesn't ask too many questions. She told me last week, "I spent 12 years married to someone I didn't actually know." That's not sad. That's just information. That's the thing about near-death experiences. They clarify what matters. And Lawson didn't make the list. Lawson, for his part, is living exactly the life he deserves. Still in that studio apartment in Tempe. Still drowning in legal fees and debt. Still paying mortgage payments on properties he can't touch. His construction job barely covers his basic expenses. And the IRS payment plan eats $743 monthly that he absolutely doesn't have. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he tried dating someone new, a woman he met at his gym. They went out twice before she Googled him and discovered the lawsuits, the fraud allegations, and the bankruptcy dismissal. She blocked his number. Turns out, having your entire financial criminal history available via public court records really limits your romantic prospects. Who knew? Daphne's Instagram, which used to be all luxury real estate and boss babe quotes, is now mostly motivational content about finding your purpose and thriving through adversity. She posts photos of herself at Kohl's with captions about the dignity of honest work, which would be inspiring if we all didn't know it was court-ordered honesty after years of fraud. Last I checked, she'd started an online course about rebuilding after setbacks. The audacity of monetizing your own criminal consequences is almost impressive. Mavis, Lawson's mother, calls Vera once a month to apologize. Vera's always gracious, always kind, because that's who she is. But she doesn't pretend they'll be close. Some relationships don't survive your son trying to rob your daughter-in-law during a medical crisis. As for me, I'm still doing taxes, still catching financial criminals before they become full-blown disasters. But now, I have a reputation in Scottsdale. I'm the tax preparer who will absolutely burn your life down if you mess with my clients. Business has never been better. The cases against Lawson are still moving through the courts. That 3 to 5 year timeline is holding steady. Every few months there's a new hearing, a new deposition, a new round of legal fees. Vera barely thinks about it anymore. Cora handles everything, and the receivership manager sends monthly reports on the rental properties. The money flows in slowly, steadily, inevitably, like justice should. Here's what I learned from all of this. Financial abuse is still abuse, even when it's quiet. Even when it looks like business decisions and investment strategies. Even when the abuser posts Bible verses on Facebook and brings grocery store flowers to the hospital. And the best defense against it? Documentation, receipts, paper trails. The boring, methodical work of tracking every dollar, every signature, every transaction. People think revenge is dramatic. Screaming matches, public confrontations, thrown drinks. Real revenge is a 47-page divorce petition and a forensic accountant named Edith who doesn't miss anything. Vera's book club asked her recently if she regrets marrying Lawson. She thought about it for a minute, then said, "I regret not asking more questions, but I don't regret leaving." That's the lesson, really. You can't control whether someone lies to you, but you can absolutely control whether you stay once you know the truth. And if you're lucky enough to have a sister who's a tax preparer with rage capacity and legal connections, even better. These days, Vera's focused on the future. She's thinking about starting her own business. Maybe interior design, maybe property management. She's not sure yet. She's got capital now, thanks to the settlement money and the receivership income. She's got clarity about what she wants and what she won't tolerate, and she's got a sister who will always check the paperwork. As for Lawson, he's still got about 4 years of litigation ahead of him, a 5-figure IRS debt that compounds monthly, and the permanent record of someone who tried to rob his unconscious wife and failed spectacularly. We don't think about him much anymore. Why would we? In Arizona, we don't just survive betrayal. We document it, litigate it, and turn it into a cautionary tale with a really good accountant. And honestly, that's the best revenge of all.